it's Lisa. I am ready to do another journal cover. It's that time where I have filled up my past journals. I use these for to-do lists, menu planning, just all kinds of notes and things. And what we're going to do in this video is do a cover. The cover could be done on any kind of spiral notebook. I happen to use these from Mead, and the last time I was at Office Max, they didn't have any more. Some of my viewers have told me they can't find them. I really think they have finally stopped making this particular type of notebook that I've talked about in the past with my journals. So it doesn't really matter. What we're doing here is a spiral cover notebook. So you can use any style that you want. You need a page out of it though to use as a template for your hole punching. So you can, this one has a separate cover thing that you normally tear off. So I tore that off, or you could just take a page out of the inside. Now, I'm going to be doing some jelly printing for this cover. Since I'm doing a lot of jelly printing this year, I thought that would make a really pretty cover. This stencil came from Hobby Lobby. When I bought it, I tried to talk myself out of it because I'm like, you've got lots of stuff in the Silhouette software that you can cut for stencils. You got gobs of stencils, but I just couldn't resist. I thought it was so pretty, and I have really loved working with it. So I picked it up at Hobby Lobby back in the regular craft area where they keep the craft paint and the Mod Podge and stuff. They have a lot of stencils for home use and for other kind of crafting, and they certainly work just as well for scrapbooking and paper crafting as well. So we're going to use this one for the cover with the jelly print, or jelly plate, and I've pulled out some paints here, some Academy acrylics just because I liked the color. I have this Martha Stewart. I love these pearl paints. This one is called Tiger Lily. And then I have some gold acrylic paint from Anita's, some distress paint in the Barn Red color. I think that's what that is. Yeah, I'm not seeing it on there. Yeah, Barn Door. Barn Door is what it's called. And I have this chalkboard paint out. Now, I'm not going to use the chalkboard paint with my jelly plate. You probably could. I don't know how well that would work, but I'm going to use it in another way, I think. And I thought this might be a good one to work with some of the markers on it after I get the jelly print made. So those are some of my tools that I'll be working with, and let's get started making a jelly plate for this, and then we'll spend the majority of our video on finishing up the cover for the notebook. So I've got all my tools out here for the jelly plate, some paper towels, water, several paints, my Ranger roller, and I have some couple of tools there I'm going to use to make some texture. I'm going to start with some of the gold and orange colors for my first layer. This is the 8x10 jelly plate, which is the perfect size for this particular project. And I like to roll off my excess over on the side. This is some Sink Mat from the dollar store, and then I have some crumpled up saran wrap. I like for my first layer to have a lot of color to it. I don't like it to show a lot of the background. Now if I were using cardstock or something, then I might want to show more of the background, but just using white paper I don't really want to show a lot. So we'll do a ghost print as well, which is a pretty good image. There was a lot of paint there. And next up we're going to add the red colors, more of a brick red or kind of burgundy-ish red color there, some distress paint in the Barn Red color, and then a little bit of Martha Stewart's Tiger Lily that has some pearl finish to it, makes a really pretty color, and then this great stencil from Hobby Lobby. And this time we're just kind of seeing what that looks like over on the yellow. It's a nice look with mostly yellow showing through. And I really liked how that stencil looked when you pressed it down on paper. So I'm going to do that same thing with my other yellow print there. Let's add a little more red paint. Same three colors that I had before. And this time what I'm going to do is take the stencil and put it down, and then go ahead and, press it onto some paper. And what I'm wanting is the paint that's on the stencil. So this is not exactly monoprinting, but it's still using the jelly print just in a different way. So I'm going to run that brayer over the stencil to get it pressed on good, and I get a really interesting print this way. And I really like that look, and that's the one I'm going to end up using on my notebook cover. But I've still got another ghost print here I can pick up. And I'll keep those for other projects. Now I thought this particular stencil would lend itself well to coloring in some of the circles, some of the areas, using markers to outline some things. And I started working with a Sharpie and it just wasn't coming out really good on this paint. But the Faber-Castell markers work great on all kinds of surfaces. So I used that again to go around the different areas. And after a while it dawned on me that I could use my stencil to help keep myself in the lines a little bit better. So we'll come back to that in just a moment. What I'm doing, I washed the stencil off and I was letting it dry. In the meantime, I'm taking some of this chalkboard paint and painting up some black cardstock. And that's going to come into play a little bit later on, but I needed to do this also to let it dry. And this just creates those kind of chalk embellishments that you can buy. You can just take chalkboard paint and cover your black cardstock and get basically the same look. And then you can cut them in whatever shape that you want on your die cutters. I did a whole video on this last year, so we'll put that aside for now. And my stencil is dry, so I can use it with the markers to go ahead and outline a lot of these different areas, and it will keep my lines a little bit cleaner than just hand drawing them. I am not good at hand drawing anything. So I just go around some of them. I did try some with the white gel pen, and again I didn't have a ton of success because it just didn't want to come out good on this paint, but the Faber-Castell marker worked well. The colorful Faber-Castell markers that I have here, these are the big brush markers. Could use the small ones too. I'm going to use to outline or to fill in some of the different areas, and I'm just testing out a few colors to see which ones I want to use. And I decided to add a little bit of a teal color to this just to throw in an extra color. And I won't do all of the coloring that I did on the video, but you'll get the general idea of what I'm doing. Just filling in some of the areas. I didn't color all of it because I wanted some of my background to show through, but just some of them. And it creates a nice finish, gives a little more dimension to the background. Because with these notebooks, I can't put a lot of stuff on them because I want them to stay pretty flat. Now what I'm doing here is figuring out where I want to cut this, because the left-hand edge needs to be cut exactly where it's going to go in the book. The other edges are going to end up being folded over. So I'm trimming this off on a paper trimmer off camera. And now it's ready to go on my notebook. And I will flip this over so that the little hole punch area is where I can just trace all those little holes, and that'll give me a guideline for using my hole punch tool. And I happen to be using a Crocodile, which is a fabulous hole punch through very thick materials, but it is a pain because the little extra pieces of paper don't come out really well. Now once I got all the holes punched, this part of the video didn't get shot. What I did was, after I punched all the holes, then I took scissors and I snipped down each edge in a diagonal fashion, and then I just pressed the paper into the front of the spiral notebook. And then I added a little bit of glue. So I'm showing you here what would happen. If this were my cover, I would press all those little edges that I had snipped into the front of the notebook, and then I would add a little glue down there, down in between each of the spiral parts, and that would hold everything in place. And I've done that on a number of my other videos, but in this case I'm sorry, I just did not get that part filmed. I thought I was filming, but I wasn't. So once the cover is attached, then I'm going to use my bone folder and fold all the edges over. and we're going to use some tape to hold this in place. And the kind of tape that I like to use is a product from Creative Memories, and they have changed their product line so much I don't know if they're still making this photo tape, but you could use the red sticky tape, anything that's going to give you a really good hold. You could use liquid glue if you wanted to, but I really like these tapes. But I'm just getting all my corners snipped off so that this will have a nice flat fold to the back. And there's my tape that I'm going to press down and peel off. But again, what happens with the front cover is after you punch all the holes, then you take your scissors and you just snip from the end of the paper into the hole. And I do it diagonally because I think it holds a little bit better. And then you can just take the cover and press each of the little sections in between the spirals, and it will fit right in there. Add a little glue to hold them in place, just a dot in between each spiral, and everything will stay right where it needs to. Because you don't need a ton of glue, you're going to be gluing the inside of the cover. And now we have our cover and we're ready to put something on the front. And I die cut with my silhouette the chalkboard painted black cardstock that I had, and I used it and sort of traced that on some scrap paper and kind of figured out what I was going to do, played with my white gel pen to see how I was going to go about writing my title. This is not something I normally do, use stickers or thickers or whatever for my titles, but I decided to go with the artsy look here and do a free-handed title. So this is going to say Everyday Life. And the white gel pen does write really well on the chalkboard. And I went ahead and put life on there so I wouldn't run out of room. And then I fit day in where it needed to go. I have other videos on covering notebook covers. I've done some different ones, and I'll link some of those up throughout this particular video, including one on school notebooks, and we're about that time of year if you like to cover school notebooks, and it shows you all the steps. So now I'm just going around the edge, and then colored pencils work great on the chalkboard paint. These are the Prisma color pencils I've had for years and years and years. Just using a bunch of different colors there. And when I finish this, then I will glue it to the front of the cover along with some paper strips. Again, I like to keep this nice and flat so that I can flip the cover back and I can write in my notebook just like it, did. It just had a normal cover on the front of it. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you'll join me for some of my other videos, and if you're not already a subscriber, if you will subscribe to my channel, that would be wonderful. Thanks again.